Subscribe to my YouTube channel, share it with your friends, and comment your thoughts. Her hands trembled as she stood in the dimly lit hallway, clutching a dried bouquet of roses that had long lost their color and softness. The faint scent of burnt paper still hung in the air, mixing with the stale silence that seemed to swallow the grand house whole. Smoke rose slowly from the fireplace, where the last remnants of a once-cherished photograph curled into ash. The edges of the burnt paper glowed softly in the flickering firelight, a wedding picture of her and Armin, now just fragments of memories torn apart. Behind the closed door of the living room, cruel laughter echoed, slicing through her chest like jagged glass. She really thought he'd stay with her forever, in that village dress, hissed her sister-in-law, voice thick with mockery. She's nothing but a simpleton, another voice chimed in, her cousin's sneering tone unmistakable. Mira's breath hitched. They didn't see her standing there, just outside the room, barefoot on the cold wooden floor, clutching the withered roses from their first anniversary that Armin had forgotten. The voices carried on, filled with bitterness and disdain, as if she was invisible, a shadow to be laughed at and ignored. She pours his tea with trembling hands, like a servant, the cousin whispered cruelly. Who even marries a village girl these days? She should have known better. Mira swallowed, hard, her heart pounding fiercely. She wanted to run, to scream, to collapse and cry. But her legs felt heavy, frozen to the spot by a strange mixture of grief and rage she had never known before. That night, Mira stopped being the quiet, simple woman everyone had dismissed her as. Only a week ago, the air in their small apartment had smelled of fresh rain and jasmine. Mira sat by the window, tracing raindrops as they raced down the glass. Her hands were wrapped tightly around a chipped mug of tea, the steam long gone. She waited for Armin, her husband, to come home. Again. The clock ticked past midnight, but Armin was nowhere to be seen. She had always been quiet, soft-spoken. Born in a small coastal town, raised by a widowed mother who worked tirelessly to keep a roof over their heads, Mira believed in kindness, loyalty and love, even when life offered her little of those things. When Armin proposed, it felt like a dream, a bright future away from poverty and pain. The wedding was small and modest. No expensive dresses or grand parties, just a simple ceremony under the banyan tree in her village, surrounded by a handful of relatives and close friends. Her mother's hands had trembled as she tied the knot, whispering prayers for her daughter's happiness. For 2 years, Mira followed Armin everywhere, across cities, countries, luxury hotels. She was his quiet shadow, packing and unpacking their bags as he chased business deals and boardroom victories. But Armin's family never accepted her. They never called, they never visited, and when they finally invited her over, it was not a gesture of love, but a trap. The invitation came on a chilly Saturday evening. Family gathering, Armin said, as if that should comfort her. Mira dressed carefully in a simple cotton sari embroidered by her mother's delicate hands. Her heart beat wildly with hope and fear, but the moment she stepped into the grand mansion, something felt wrong. The air was thick, heavy with unspoken words and hidden glances. She could hear the soft click of expensive heels on marble floors, the rustle of silk dresses, but the laughter was sharp and biting, full of venom. Look who decided to show up, Armin's sister said loudly, loud enough for Mira to hear. The little country girl thinks she belongs here. She looks so out of place, a cousin added, smirking as they all exchanged amused glances. Mira forced a smile, trying to keep her voice steady as she answered their questions, but every word was met with cold contempt. She noticed Armin's silence. His eyes seemed distant, watching but not acting. She tried to believe he would defend her, but he didn't. That night, Mira lay awake on the narrow bed in the smallest room of the mansion, the one with thin walls and no lock. The cruel laughter echoed in her ears, haunting her sleep. The next morning she found the dried roses from their anniversary dinner still lying on the table, a silent reminder that she was invisible, unimportant. Back in the present, Mira's phone buzzed sharply, a message from an unknown number. "He's not who you think he is. Meet me at the old cafe. Come alone." Her heart skipped a beat. She glanced toward the living room where the family was still gathered, their voices loud and careless. Armand hadn't come home again. The rain poured in relentless sheets as Mira stepped into the old cafe. The air inside smelled of stale coffee and forgotten stories. A man in a grey coat sat at a corner table, eyes tired but sharp. "You're Mira?" he asked quietly. She nodded, gripping her bag tightly. "Who are you?" she asked. He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a brown envelope across the table. Inside, Mira found photographs, candid shots of Armand with another woman, holding a child she had never known about. There were marriage certificates, signatures and dates, a secret life, a double betrayal. Her hands trembled as she pieced the fragments together. Returning home, Mira placed the brittle roses on the dining table. No tears came, no screams. She walked slowly to the mirror and wiped off the faint pink lipstick she always wore, the one she applied because he liked it. She whispered to her reflection, "They think I'm a fool." She crept toward Armand's office, the one room he had told her never to enter. The door was unlocked. Inside, on the polished mahogany desk, lay a black leather notebook. She opened it with trembling fingers. The first page read, "Contingency Plan. If Mira finds out." Mira's breath caught in her throat. The game had changed. She was no longer the woman to be laughed at, but this was only the beginning. The black leather notebook lay heavy in Mira's hands, as if it carried the weight of every lie that had ever been told to her. Her fingers trembled as she turned the first page again, trying to steady her racing heart. The neat handwriting spelled out a chilling plan, a contingency, a roadmap for when the truth came out. "If Mira finds out about my other life." The words felt like a blade, slicing through the fragile hope she had clung to for so long. She sank to the floor, back pressed against the polished door, the silence of the room wrapping around her like a suffocating shroud. For a moment, all she could hear was the pounding of her own heart. Outside, the family's laughter still echoed through the halls, ignorant of the storm brewing inside Mira's mind. How long had this deception been going on? Who was the other woman? Did Armand ever love her at all? Her world was unraveling faster than she could catch it. The next morning, Mira found herself sitting by the window of their apartment, the one room that still felt vaguely like home. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still heavy with grey clouds, mirroring the turmoil inside her. She thought about calling Armand, confronting him, demanding answers. But her fingers hovered over the phone, frozen with doubt. What if he denied everything? What if the family was right, that she was the outsider, the fool? Just then her phone buzzed again, a message from the unknown number. "Meet me tomorrow at noon. There's more you need to see." No name, no explanation, but Mira knew she had no choice. The next day, at the old cafe, the familiar cafe smelled like burnt coffee and old secrets. Mira's heart beat fast as she entered. The man in the grey coat was already waiting, his eyes sharper than before. "You don't have to trust me," he said, sliding a thick folder across the table. "But you need to see this." Inside were documents, bank statements, phone records, hotel receipts, all tracing a hidden life Armand had built with the other woman. Mira's throat tightened. She flipped through the papers, each one tearing away another layer of the man she thought she knew. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down her spine. A photograph slipped from the folder. It showed Armand holding a small girl, not a baby, but no older than 5, in a park, smiling. The child looked just like him. "Who is she?" Mira whispered. The man sighed. His daughter from the other woman. Mira sat back, stunned. She had thought her pain was unbearable, but this was a betrayal so deep it cut through her very soul. Back at home, the house was quieter now. The family had left, each returning to their separate lives. Leaving, Mira alone with her thoughts, her rage, and her heartbreak. She went to the small kitchen and poured herself a glass of water, hands shaking. For the first time, she allowed herself to cry, but the tears weren't just for the loss of love. They were for the betrayal, the lies, and the years wasted believing in a man who had never truly been hers. A new resolve. Mira wiped her tears away. She would not be a victim, not anymore. She stood up, the weight of the notebook still heavy in her bag. Her mother's words echoed in her mind. Sometimes, losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. The next few days passed in a blur. Mira began quietly digging, contacting people from Armand's world, piecing together the truth. She discovered whispers of shady business deals, secret meetings, and a woman named Lena, who was more than just a name. One night, the confrontation, Mira found herself outside a lavish hotel, heart pounding in her chest. Inside, she had learned Armand was meeting Lena. She debated walking away, but the fire inside her wouldn't let her. She pushed the door open. Inside the opulent lounge, she saw them, Armand smiling, not at her, but at Lena. The woman stood close, laughing softly. Mira's blood ran cold. Her simple life, the love she thought was real, all shattered in an instant. Lena looked up, eyes widening as she saw Mira. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice icy. Armand's smile faded. "Mira," he began, but she cut him off. "How long?" she demanded. "How long have you been living this lie?" Armand's face hardened. "Don't do this," he warned, but Mira stood tall, no longer the quiet girl they had mocked. "I want the truth," she said firmly. "All of it." Lena stepped forward, a smirk curling her lips. "You think you know everything, don't you?" Mira's fists clenched. "You betrayed me. You betrayed your family. Now it's time I find out why." The secrets unfold over. The next weeks, Mira uncovered the depths of Armand's double life. Lena wasn't just a mistress. She was part of a dangerous scheme involving blackmail and business sabotage. Armand had been caught between worlds, and Mira's simple existence was collateral damage, but the biggest shock was yet to come. Mira received an anonymous message. "Meet me where it all began." At the village, Mira returned to her childhood home, the small coastal village where dreams felt distant and fragile. She walked the familiar paths, memories flooding back. At the old banyan tree where she had said her vows, a figure waited. It was Armand's father. His eyes held years of regret and sorrow. He confessed the truth. Armand's family had never wanted Mira. They had plotted to keep her out, to protect their empire. The other woman, Lena, was part of that plan. Mira's world spun. She realized she was a pawn in a larger game. Mira stood beneath the banyan tree, tears mixing with rain, but this time her tears were not of sorrow, but of awakening. She would fight. She would survive. She would reclaim her life. The banyan tree loomed over Mira like a silent witness to the betrayal and pain she had endured. Its ancient roots twisted and tangled, just like the lies that had grown around her life, hidden beneath the surface, impossible to ignore. Armand's father stood beside her, the weight of his confession heavy in the humid village air. "I'm sorry, Mira," he said quietly, rubbing his forehead. "Our family made mistakes. We underestimated you. And Armand, too. But the truth is, this was never about love." Mira's heart pounded fiercely. She swallowed the lump rising in her throat and asked, "Then what was it about?" His eyes darkened. Power, control, keeping the family empire intact. "Lena, she's their pawn. You were the outsider, the one who didn't belong." Mira clenched her fists, fighting back the storm of emotions rising within her: anger, grief, disbelief. But beneath it all, a fierce determination burned brighter than ever. They had tried to break her, to destroy her, but they had only awakened the fight inside her. Back in the city, Mira's life had already begun to change. Her quiet days had vanished. She spent her nights poring over documents, tracking business deals, uncovering shady transactions tied to Arman's family. And Lena's name kept appearing like a shadow she couldn't shake. She had made a decision. She would expose everything. Not just for herself, but for every woman like her, dismissed, laughed at, pushed aside. The first move Mira started small. She reached out to a trusted journalist, a woman named Aisha, known for her fearless reporting on corporate scandals. Their first meeting was tense. Mira handed Aisha the evidence she'd collected: bank statements, photos, messages. "This is real," Mira said, her voice trembling but fierce. "I want the truth to come out." Aisha studied her carefully. "This could destroy a powerful family. Are you ready for what comes next?" Mira nodded. "I'm ready." The backlash word spread quickly. Arman's family denied everything. They called Mira a liar, a gold digger trying to ruin their reputation. Social media exploded with hateful comments. Even some of Mira's own friends turned away. But Mira stood her ground. Each attack only made her stronger. She wasn't the timid woman they thought she was. One night, Mira received a mysterious package at her door. Inside was a note: "Stop digging or you'll regret it," along with a photo. Arman, smiling, holding a gun. Her blood ran cold. The game had turned deadly. Allies in the dark. Despite the threats, Mira found unexpected allies. One was Raghav, a former employee of Arman's company who had quietly been gathering evidence against the family. Raghav was cautious but determined. He shared with Mira files that showed how Arman's empire had been built on lies, manipulation, and illegal deals. Together, they planned their next steps. A secret meeting. Mira and Raghav arranged a secret meeting with a lawyer known for taking down corrupt corporations. In a dimly lit room, Mira handed over her evidence. The lawyer studied the files, then looked up. "This is serious, but it's not impossible. With enough proof, we can take them down." Mira's heart raced with hope. For the first time, she felt a glimpse of justice, the turning point. Days later, Mira received a call. Arman wanted to meet. The voice on the other end was cold but urgent. "I know you've been digging," he said. "Meet me tomorrow. One last chance to stop this." Mira hesitated. Could she trust him, or was this another trap? That night, sleep eluded her. She thought of her mother's words again. "Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are." Mira knew one thing: she was done hiding. The confrontation. The next day, Mira arrived at a quiet park. Arman was already there, looking tired but sharp. He didn't smile. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "For the truth," Mira replied firmly. "For the years you stole from me." Arman's eyes darkened. "You don't understand the pressure I'm under. This family, it's a prison." Mira's anger flared. "You betrayed me. You lied to me. And you betrayed your own child." Arman's face twisted. "That child is not your concern." Mira took a deep breath. She was no longer the woman who would back down. "I'm taking everything you tried to hide and bringing it to light." Arman's voice dropped to a whisper. "You don't know what you're dealing with." The unexpected ally. Suddenly, a voice interrupted. "Maybe I do." Lena stepped out of the shadows, calm and composed. The sight of her hit Mira like a punch to the stomach. But Lena's words surprised her. "I've been trapped in this family's games, just like you." She pulled out a file, documents proving she was used and threatened by Arman's family to keep quiet. Mira and Lena locked eyes. For the first time, two women hurt by the same man saw each other not as enemies, but as allies. Planning the Final strike Mira, Lena and Raghav formed a fragile alliance. They prepared to reveal the truth, the illegal deals, the betrayals, the secrets that had kept them all prisoner. The battle ahead would be dangerous, but Mira was ready. The air was thick with anticipation as Mira sat quietly in the courtroom, clutching the folder that held the evidence of years of lies, betrayal, and corruption. The room was packed. Reporters, lawyers, family members, all gathered to witness the final chapter of a story that had shocked the city. Mira's heart hammered in her chest, but her hands were steady. She had come too far to back down now. The trial begins. The judge called the session to order, and the prosecution laid out the case. Evidence after evidence, bank records, testimonies, videos, showed how Arman's family had orchestrated a campaign of deceit to protect their empire. They had used their wealth and influence to silence anyone who stood in their way. Arman sat in the defendant's chair, his confident facade cracking with each new piece of truth revealed. Lena testified bravely, sharing her story of being trapped and threatened. Her words cut through the courtroom like a knife. Mira watched, her emotions a whirlwind, anger, sorrow, but also relief. This was justice. The unexpected twist. Just when it seemed the case was about to be sealed, a bombshell exploded. Raghav stood up, hesitating for a moment before speaking. He revealed that Arman had been forced into these actions by an even darker force, a shadowy figure controlling the family's empire from behind the scenes. The courtroom murmured in shock. Who was this puppet master? Raghav hesitated but finally named the person, Arman's uncle, Rajiv. Rajiv had been the true architect of the corruption, manipulating Arman and the rest of the family for years. The revelation changed everything. The judge ordered an immediate investigation. Rajiv was arrested shortly after, caught in a sting operation, Mira's victory. The trial ended with Arman receiving a reduced sentence due to his cooperation, Lena gaining her freedom, and Rajiv facing charges for his crimes. Mira stood outside the courthouse, sunlight breaking through the clouds. Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. "I'm proud of you. The healing in." The weeks that followed, Mira rebuilt her life. She returned to her village for a while, finding solace in the simplicity she once feared. But this time, simplicity was a choice, not a limitation. She started a foundation to help women who had been silenced and betrayed. Her story became a beacon of hope, showing that even in the darkest moments, strength could be found. The final lesson. One evening, as Mira watched the sunset from the veranda of her childhood home, she reflected on the journey. She had lost so much, but in losing, she had found herself. Her mother's words echoed once more. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find who you really are. Mira smiled. She was no longer the simple woman they laughed at. She was a survivor, a fighter, a woman reborn. The end.